Welcome to the show, everybody. Living Your Career show here on Tuesday, 12 o'clock Brisbane noon time. The theme of our show today is don't wait for that tap on the shoulder. Create your own career look. Most top executives will admit that they've achieved their position not just because of intelligence or hard work, but also because of luck. So what role does luck play in career development? Is luck derived from random encounters or events? Or can we control and create and control it for our advantage? Are some people better suited to take advantage of luck? And if so, what can we learn from them? Our guest today is Susan Middleditch. Susan is the Deputy Secretary of Victoria Police. She is the epitome of quality leadership in the public service. In 2018, Susan was recognised as one of the top 50 women in the Victorian public service. A first-time CFO at 25, recognised governance expert, mentor, executive coach, and mother. Susan's mindset, her growth mindset, is what sets her apart from others. She believes that luck is not just random. She believes that you have to creatively and intuitively create your own opportunities. And on that note, Susan, welcome to the show. It's a pleasure to have you.
Hi, Roisin. It's lovely to be here. Thank you.
Pleasure. Absolute pleasure. And across the states as well this time. Usually we meet in Queensland. This time it's Queensland talking to Victoria.
Absolutely.
Susan, I guess the one thing that most people, if you look at it from university to CFO, in really probably 3 years or so, that's rapid career growth by any standards.
Mm-hmm.
The question to you is, did you have a killer instinct about your career? Hello? Can you hear me?
No, look, Roisin, yes, I can.
Yeah. I'm just wondering about, did you have a killer career instinct from the get-go? And if so, where did that come from?
Look, I can categorically state that I did not have a killer instinct from the get-go at all. And I actually wouldn't say I have one now. I would say to you that, I was very fortunate to be brought up by, a mother and a father who instilled in both my sister and I that we could do anything that we put our minds to. And certainly I think that has really set me up for my career and, everything that I've wanted to do in life. But certainly that CFO role when I was 25 absolutely landed in my lap. And I do certainly remember having a conversation with the CFO that was exiting the organisation at the time about me taking on that role. And in that conversation, me giving him a list of 5 or 6 other people that could, well do the role as well, was much more experienced than me, was much older than me. But, he was not letting me get away with that at all. He was, certainly, saying to me, no, Susan, this is your role and it's now.
Did he ever tell you what he perhaps saw in you that he may not have seen in those other 6?
Look, and no, and I do reflect on that time a lot because it was, one of those points in your career that is a really defining moment. And no, he didn't share with me what he saw in me. And, unfortunately, I haven't had the opportunity to ask either since that time. But look, all I can say is that I was lucky enough that, I was there when he was there. He obviously saw something in me. And look, obviously it was a start of, what has been a very fortunate and very enjoyable career to date. I'm sure there's more to come, but to date.
And we'll discuss that too. I think, this thing about right people, right place, right time, that again is one of the characteristics of luck. How important do you think confidence and aspiration, having, the gusto and the desire, more than ambition in a way, aspiration. How important do you think confidence and aspiration is to engineering luck for yourself in your career?
Oh, critically important. Confidence, absolutely. And, there's been times in my career where, I haven't been confident, in myself or my own ability due to the circumstances I've found myself in. And that makes it extremely difficult for you to engineer, something other than what you've got in front of you. So absolutely, confidence is, number one. Skill set that I think that we all need to to really empower ourselves and trust ourselves and trust that gut instinct about going forward and doing something else than what we're already doing.
Do you think ambition is enough? And I ask this honestly because, obviously I've been doing a bit of reading and research on what is career luck. How do you create luck in your career? How do you connect the dots? How do you look at the triggers that could be good? And I guess, is ambition enough, or do you actually need to have something very, very deep within yourself, like aspiration, something for more? And did you have that?
I don't think ambition is enough. I think ambition is a start, but I think underpinning that ambition actually needs to be the ability to actually perform. I mean, Roisin, I could sit here to you and say, "Oh, look, I've got this amazing ambition to go and be a neurosurgeon." But come on, I'm not a
Well,
doctor, and me being a neurosurgeon would be extremely, extremely dangerous, I would say. So I think ambition is one thing, and yes, ambition is an amazing, drive factor for people. But I think too, you really need to understand yourself. You need to really understand your strengths and your weaknesses, or strengths and opportunities for growth. I think confidence plays into that. I think that, part of creating your own luck is also this ability to really explain to people what you're good at and why you're good at it. So it's almost the elevator pitch that
mm,
you can do in front of people when you get the opportunity, whether that's your big boss or your CEO or whoever that might be. I don't think ambition is just enough.
mm.
There really needs to be some depth of self and some ability there.
Yeah, and I think, having the knowledge, the skill, having the talent to back it up. And as you said, clarity of thought and clarity of thinking and clarity of communication.
Mhm.
So I think that's one of the things you're saying. It's interesting, we talk about people, probably opportunity comes into our life all the time. It could be a random encounter with somebody, as I said in the intro, it could be an event that you're at and you meet somebody. And I often wonder if people are so busy, focused on their own agenda, or, wanting to talk to somebody they like, or whatever the case may be, that they actually miss the grand opportunities that are parading in front of them. So I guess my question to you is, how have you
Mm.
developed your radar for spotting emerging opportunities?
I think it's not so much a radar for spotting the opportunities. I think that what underpins that for myself is knowing what I want to do next, or it might not be knowing exactly what I want to do, but knowing what I want to achieve. So that could be, for people and for your listeners, it could be that, a number of your listeners may be sitting there thinking, oh, look, I need to get some experience, or I need to improve my skill set in A. So if you define that, then you will actually go looking for opportunities for you to be able to increase that skill set in A, whatever A might be. So it might be, for example, as you said in the intro, I've come up through a traditional finance stream. I did finance at university. I went into an auditing and accounting role when I was a graduate. As you said, I became a CFO at the age of 25. But from there to get to my current role, which, now spans, very large human resources team. I've done very large ICT teams. My background's not HR. My background's not ICT. So when I was starting to look beyond my CFO role and say, well, actually, what's next? I realized I needed experience in other corporate services. So I'd look for an opportunity. So in one of the organizations I worked with a number of years ago, nobody really wanted to look after information management. So, the old file type system, records management, et cetera, et cetera. So I said, oh, well, I'll adopt the records management team. And all of a sudden I became a manager of records management and started broadening that experience. And then nobody wanted to take responsibility for writing the strategic plan. I went, oh, well, I'll write a strategic plan. I didn't do it by myself. I did it with help, but, I led the development of the strategic plan. So I had recognized that to broaden my career, I needed all of these different experiences. And so then I just looked for opportunities to add that to my area of responsibility. And all of a sudden, well, not all of a sudden, over a number of years, I had built myself into a leader of corporate services, not just a leader of finance teams.
It's interesting, it takes a bit of courage to put yourself out there and say, yeah, I'll do that. I'll write that strategic plan. I will take on that records management program. I will transform that. You've merged departments together. You've been involved in so many large and significant initiatives. But I guess one of the things I often want, and some of this comes back to that tall poppy syndrome, when you take opportunity, and it's not about rushing and racing, it's about being sure-footed. I guess, have you ever, sometimes is that thing that you look a bit different because you're somebody who says, yeah, give it to me. Like many people say, I'm going to do my job brilliantly, but thank you, that's all you're paying me to do. The second thing is, do people perceive, the tall poppy syndrome, you're a bit of an opportunist? What's the best way when you want to build your assets, when you want to build your talents, when you want to be able to make yourself competitive for those top jobs? There are a lot of people that say, I could have done that, but they didn't put their hand up, but they'll still judge you for it. I'm curious, how did you manage your brand and your reputation as you evolved your career?
I think there's a couple of things that play into that. I mean, obviously, putting your hand up is one thing. Absolutely nailing it or delivering it is something else. And so therefore, if you're going to put your hand up, this is where the confidence comes back into it. When I put my hand up for those opportunities, and for every opportunity that I've put my hand up for, I'm absolutely confident that I can do a good job of it. And then I, go and prove the fact that I can do a good job of it. So there's the confidence, there's performance. Obviously, you have to perform. You have to be able to, deliver that. In some respects, those opportunities haven't come off 100% of the time. So, it's putting up your hand going, all right, well, that didn't go very well, but, I learnt from it and I, it didn't go badly. It could have gone better. So they're always learning experiences. And then I think the other thing that plays into this, and particularly as you start to come up through the executive ranks, is your ability to lead people. And really with people so that both the people that you lead and your colleagues really see the value in which you bring to that team or to that new opportunity. And so therefore, it's not just you that is looking after your reputation and what people are saying about you. You've got people also backing your reputation and saying good things about you. Yes, unfortunately, the tall poppy syndrome does happen in Australia, and we can see that through all sorts of arms of politics and the private sector, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm not saying that it doesn't happen, because it does happen. And when it does, it's extremely unfortunate. But people do come out from that as well. And it does tend to be because the people that have worked with you, the people that have worked for you, can be your greatest advocates and your largest cheer squads.
I guess it's interesting. You're dealing with a large team now, a multidisciplinary team. As you say, there's a fairly sizable portfolio underneath you. I'm wondering, I often look at, as you know, I do a lot of work in the public service. My question is, I look at people who go from band to band, incremental steps. I'm often wondering, and it's quite almost a fixed mindset. I'm a band 6 now, I'm going to be a team leader next, I'll be a manager next, and then I'll start rising up through the ranks. I might throw an MBA in there somewhere if I have time. But, something to again, propel me forward. I'm wondering, is it possible really to create your own luck if all you're doing is sitting in your seat, waiting and proving yourself for the next opportunity? Because you kind of, in a way, that's not been your career. So how do you encourage others to create those opportunities and to tackle perhaps the adversity and to put themselves into a position that's going to put them in the prime seat?
Look, I think, and if I talk from my own personal opinion, and I recognise that I am in an extremely fortunate position to be in an executive leadership team where I can help and support a lot of people that work for me and a lot of people that work in our organisation. And I see it that it is not just my role, but almost my duty to do so. As an executive leader, it is my commitment and duty to people to encourage them and help them progress, maybe in the way that they have always thought, but also to open up, their opportunities and maybe their mindsets to doing something, in a little bit of a different way. And I have been described as not your typical public servant. So, maybe this is just, me being not your typical public servant. But I do think, of course, the standard progression worked really well for a load of people. And we're very fortunate in the public service that we've got, people at all levels and ranks that are extremely good at what they do. But similarly, we also have amazing people that have worked all across the public service and moved from, place to place and don't have traditional career trajectory. And Roisin, even as you know, when I left Queensland to come to Victoria, I actually took a step backwards to take up the opportunity with the Department of Premier and Cabinet. So I left Queensland Health as a Deputy Director General, took a step backwards to become the Executive Director down here at DPC, and since then have come and joined Victoria Police, again as a Deputy Secretary. So, I did take that step back, change states, rebuilt a career and a reputation here, which, ultimately has paid off because, the job in VicPol is, an amazing one for an amazing organisation that makes a difference to thousands of Victorians' lives every day. And as a public servant, I couldn't ask for anything else.
You, Susan, won a really prestigious award to attend Harvard's Business School, Driving Government. So the program that you studied, for everybody who's listening in, was the Driving Government Performance Executive Education Program. Look, I work with Harvard students in my life in London, and it's really interesting how innovative, how collaborative, how, I guess, those are the two things that I would say about all of that. There's a lot of ingenuity coming out of that place. I'm curious to know, what were your big takeouts from that experience, and what other people value from doing similar programs like that?
Yeah, look, I think, that program at Harvard was absolutely fascinating, and probably my takeouts are these. Number one, public service or civil service across the world is difficult, and we're all dealing with, the same challenges. And so therefore my takeaway from that is I don't know why we're not talking to one another more and collaborating on areas of public policy, because we're all trying to solve many similar issues from one another. I think one of the things that Harvard in that particular was trying to project was if you want to improve a government entity's performance, get them to focus on the one thing that really matters. And take away from that, and I've thought about this a lot this few years, is actually trying to define what the one thing that matters to government agencies is extremely difficult. And that's because it changes. If I was talking to you about the one thing that mattered for Victoria Police, say, at the beginning of 2020, most police forces would say, well, crime statistics matter. That's our one purpose. Our one purpose is to reduce crime within our state. And nobody could argue about that. And then mid-March comes along and we're hit with a pandemic, and for the rest of 2020, arguably and probably actually, we were not really focused on crime statistics in 2020. We were focused on trying to keep people healthy and safe. So I think the balance there, with Harvard about, well, yes, performance is one thing, but the public policy and government priorities, etc., it changes. It changes, and there has to be the ability for government agencies to change alongside public and community and government's priorities. So I haven't nailed that one yet. It's still a work in progress.
Well, I guess, that's the thing about creating your own luck in a way, because and being able to project your brand and activate your brand and your capability and deliver accordingly, because that is the world we're living in now. I'm absolutely sure whether it was private or public sector in the last 12 months, most people didn't think that they'd be actively working, remote working, or, Zoom would have such massive uptake, or that you and I would be talking interstate on StreamYard right now. That might always have happened. But the reality is, and that's one of the reasons why we did the Living Your Career program, is because essentially people need a lot of help with their careers now as a consequence of COVID, and who knows what's around the corner. One of the things, Susan, that I was involved with you when you were at Queensland Health was the Aspiring Women's Leadership Summit that you were one of the major drivers of. I helped you with a bit of resourcing around that. And I know the other brainchild that you've been actively involved in is the Empowering Women for the Future Summit. This is for the Victorian Public Service. And I know that's going from strength to strength. Look, these forums provide a huge opportunity for women to network and collaborate. You're one of the reasons these forums got up at all. Tell me, why was it so important to you as an executive public servant? Because there's a lot of time and effort goes into designing these and building them in such a way that makes them attractive to people who want to be in those forums. Why was it so important to you to get these forums up and running?
Roisin, it was important for me to get these up and running for two reasons. The first one is that, and it comes back to creating your own luck. The first one is that in the main, women don't put themselves forward for development opportunities. And that could be a development opportunity to go on a course or a conference like this one is, or an opportunity for higher duties or a secondment. They in the main don't necessarily put themselves forward. And there's a whole heap of reasons why that is the case, but they just don't. The second reason for the Aspiring Women's Leaders and Empowering Women for the Future is they don't network. And I know you're going to probably ask me about networking, but I never used to network very well either. So it was an opportunity to develop women, to give them a development opportunity just was for them, and also to give them a networking opportunity that was safe, and they didn't have to, walk into a room full of, people they don't know that are predominantly men, have to go up and introduce themselves to a group of men who are already talking with a beer in their hand, etc. It was just a safe way to start women to get to talk to one another, to make those linkages across their sector, Queensland Health in Queensland, Victorian public sector down here, and really to put a day or two on where we could short, sharp ideas about how to progress their career, with something that didn't cost them any money, didn't cost their departments any money. And as you've said, it was a huge success in Queensland. It's been a huge success down here, and it's wonderful to see them both continue.
I think one of the things that I really liked when I was looking at this, one of the things was in a non-competitive environment. This is really about people working together, partnering together, sharing ideas. Unexpected information, unexpected opportunity, random discussions can lead to so much opportunity once you have that information. It's powerful. You're an influencer, you're a role model, you're an inspirationalist for others, Susan. I know you'll say, oh, Roisin, please. You always say that to me, but the truth is that you are. I'd like to know, we've now got this big forum, the summit happening. What other big goals have you got in the pipeline? I know you're actively climbing mountains and doing all sorts of, out there living the life adventures. But is there something on the bucket list that Susan Middleditch wants to do in the very near future?
That's a really interesting question. Look, I have a bucket list for 2021, but that's because I've had to transfer over the bucket list from 2020 into 2021 because 2020 everything got put on hold for many people across the world. But as much as I talk about creating your own opportunities, etc., for your career, my career has been that planned out. So 2021 for me, my plan is actually to have a simple year. 2020 was a tough year. It was a tough year. It was a tough year leading Victoria Police through what we had to deliver for Victoria. And it was hard work. It was really valuable and at times enjoyable, but it was a hard slog, 2020. So this year I've just said that my mantra 2021 is simple. I want a simple year. That doesn't mean that there won't be challenges here at work. There absolutely will be. But I'm trying to take a more simpler approach to the way I approach those challenges in 2021. And then, see what other opportunities arise, here or outside of VicPol, and I don't know, what will be, will be.
I guess a final wrap up. So there's job seekers out there looking for work now. There are people that are looking to sort of climb the ladder. And a lot of people will think, exactly as you said about COVID-19, it was a tough year. I've got to stay put. I've got to, think about the security. I've got to think about the safety, a regular income for my family. I guess, have you any advice for those people, when it comes to actually creating their luck?
Look, I think those points are absolutely very important. 2020 does have to be, for a lot of people, around the security of their families and security of income. I can absolutely understand that. And I think even those context, people can create their own luck. And if I go back to what I started with saying before around, understanding yourself, understanding your strengths, and perhaps, spending time thinking about, well, where's the opportunity? What opportunity should I be looking for to actually really add to that basket of strengths that I already have? What's the maybe one thing in 2021 that if I was going to, progress some learning, what would that be on? And therefore, those opportunities don't need to be looking for a new job. Those opportunities could be looking within your organization. Those opportunities could be, connecting up with a learning group. It could be just doing different readings. It could be, shadowing a colleague at work. It could be going and, asking questions about, there's all sorts of ways in which we can create opportunities to learn something new or to progress a different set without necessarily saying, actually, I've got to go looking for a new job. Of course, there will be lots of people out there that are perhaps job seeking, and therefore those opportunities also exist about your network. Should I network with, making those connections with recruitment companies, again, with colleagues who may have moved, departments and agencies, or in, companies in the private sector. So I do think that, you can think about what the next opportunity is and work towards that without actually, perhaps putting you, family, at any, financial risk or financial distress.
I think that's absolutely gold, Susan, because I think the most important thing for people is, your self-esteem, and your self-esteem confidence is built by action. So whether you're asking questions, whether you're buddying up, whether you're putting your hand up, it's really important that you don't stand still, no matter what, that you keep doing something, because you just never know from those conversations and from those actions what good is going to come your way. But, people won't know if you don't put your hand up. So I think everything that you're saying there is valuably important. Susan Middleditch, thank you so much. I really appreciate having this time with you. And I know you're really, really busy. For everybody tuning in at home, I mean, there is just so much for you to take on board and make your own from this conversation. Susan, thanks very much.
You're welcome, Roisin. Thank you so much. It was lovely to chat to you, and I hope we get to do it again soon.
We most certainly will. We most certainly will. To everybody listening in at home, I guess what I'd say to you is we're back again on Thursday, 12 o'clock. We have another special guest. Until then, take on board, use, make it your own, and keep living your career. Thank you very much for tuning in.